Welcome into another video. My name is Will G, joined here as always with my guy Lucas Hoig, and making his Will Gray YouTube channel debut, Ryan Cash Money Sharma. Welcome to the channel, Ryan.
What's up? The one and only.
The one and only. That's a Cash Sharma guarantee. Today we are going to be going through all 32 NFL head coaches and tier ranking them, not in order of necessarily success, but in the order of how safe their jobs are for 2025 and the foreseeable future. Not much to talk about. Let's go ahead and get the list up here right now. And you can see we have it in order from seat is burning hot, seats warm, disaster season only, and then safe. And we have all 32 NFL head coaches, starting with Todd Bowles in alphabetical order, ending up with Mike Vrabel. I have a feeling we're going to have – I was going through them kind of in my head before we started this, and I was thinking we're going to have a decent amount of safes, which is, pretty normal. You feel like you only see about 6 to 7 at most firings a year, but that doesn't mean they're not hot. There's not at least some warm guys going into 2025. So we're going to go through each one. And let's go ahead and kick it off with Todd Bowles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, heading into year 4. Just some quick notes. 3 straight NFC South wins, despite his 27-24 record. 1-3 in the playoffs. Where are we thinking we're going to go with this one, guys, to kick us off?
I feel like maybe I'll just be a little bit more on the harsh side here, but I think there's a world where if this season's a total disaster, they've made the playoffs, but they haven't progressed. If they totally shit the bed, there's no reason that they should regress. And so while I think it's like a 1 in a million chance, I think there's a season out there where Todd Bowles gets fired. So my vote would be on a disaster season.
Disaster season only. Ryan, what are you feeling?
Oh, man, I feel like the seat's a bit warm for him. I think it really comes down to how the offensive coordinator does. Because the problem is they're losing offensive coordinators every year. So if the new one that they brought in this year has like a disaster type season himself, I think that's going to reflect on Bowles, because the problem is Liam Cohen could have been their head coach, or Dave Canales could have been their head coach. But, if they keep losing guys and Baker Mayfield takes a step back, I think they're going to look for an offensive minded head coach, because they can't keep affording to reset that playbook for Baker Mayfield as he's, kind of grown into his own here.
Yeah, I honestly kind of agree with you. I was thinking about him, and it's like, what's his ceiling?
Yeah.
I feel like he has a very limited ceiling as a head coach. He's kind of like in my opinion, like the Kroger or Walmart version of like a Sean McDermott or a Mike Tomlin, where they've shown postseason success. And he did beat the Eagles a couple years ago, but it's like that was a very, very bad Eagles team who was really starting to fall and crumble at the seams in 2023. So I just don't see a world where he is getting them over the hump in the NFC South. I've been going kind of back and forth because, if you look at it on paper, 3 straight division titles, you have offensive coordinators, coaches getting hired out from you back-to-back years. That's pretty damn good. On paper, you think about it, that's nice. But you're winning the NFC South. And you've won those with a combined record of 27-24, going what? Would they go 8-9, 9-8, and then this year they went 10-7, I believe. Yeah. That's not great. That's not great. So I want to lean seats warm.
I think seats warm.
Yeah. Seats warm. I think we're going to have to go with seats warm on this one for Todd Bowles. And then moving on to the Tennessee Titans head coach going into his second year, Brian Callahan, who was 3-14, the worst record in football last year, drafting number 1 overall pick Cam Ward in this year's draft. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and get out right there. I think no matter who you are and no matter your situation, if you have the worst record in football, your seat is immediately warm.
Yeah.
I don't know. In year 2, I'm going disaster season only for him. I mean, it's completely tied to me to Cam Ward. I mean, if Cam Ward has a completely horrible season, he's going to be on the hot seat and probably fired, if we're being honest, because they're going to have to bring in someone immediately to try to right that ship. But to me, if like Cam Ward shows good progress and the Titans win a couple more games than last year, I don't see like why they would get rid of Brian Callahan 2 years into his contract.
Did they not get a new general manager this year though?
No, wait.
Rand Carthen got fired.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit, he did get fired, didn't he?
And so
Ooh.
there's another team I think I'm going to circle back to that same point with later on, but I don't know. GM didn't pick this head coach. He obviously picked the quarterback, so I'm with Ryan on that sense. But like I think seat's probably warm. I was almost thinking it might be burning. Like you said, well, 3-14 is bad.
I don't know
But I
about
think
burning.
it's got to be hot or warm. Yeah.
I don't know about burning. I definitely think warm, but I kind of like the point that Ryan made as well with disaster season only. Like it can't get much worse than this, so the season would need to be a disaster. But just going into the season in general, I feel like with the new GM, like you said, the point being made there, and his seat and having the worst record in football, I keep going back to this is the guy who helped develop Joe Burrow. Like they did say he played a huge part in that. So I'm kind of going back and forth. You guys, you say seats warm. I'm going to stick with seats warm on this one. I had that written down just because of the 3-14 record, but I think you could go either way. Now, I'm going to say it's less than Todd Bowles.
I agree.
We're going to keep
man. He's got a family, guys.
Listen. If he goes 6-10, I think he keeps his job. Like unless there's like some crazy thing, and so it's like I think it had to be another disaster. God, you may be making my point for me.
We got a tier name called Disaster Season Only. That sounds like.
Well, now that if you're switching up, Lucas, we'll just go disaster season.
Bump it down.
Disaster season only. Dan Campbell going into year 5, back-to-back division champions, 2-2 in the postseason, a nice 39-28 record over his first 4 seasons there. It's hard not to lean safe with Dan Campbell.
Gotta be.
Yeah, I would make a case for disaster season only. Like if somehow, like let's say Ben Johnson is the coach of the year and the Lions miss the playoffs. I mean, that looks pretty bad on the Lions. Like that looks like you could have kept the guy you had in-house, and maybe that makes them look outside again and try to bring in another offensive mind. Say Jared Goff takes a huge step back and their entire offense looks way worse this year. But I mean, that would be a complete disaster and something that's probably not realistic.
I would say just even if, let's say, they miss the playoffs, like the culture that he's established there and how much the players will fight for him and love him, I want to say he's safe. Now, if you look at it like on a timeline, they took a step back already. Record-wise, no, but they didn't go as far as they did the year before. That's a step backwards. It's about how you finish, and they finish backwards from the year before. Lose both coordinators. I don't think a disaster season, even if so, warrants a firing on Dan Campbell. I think he's safe. I think I'm fair putting him in that category. But this could be maybe like one of those guys you look down the future in maybe like 2 or 3 years if they hit that kind of peak, which maybe some of us do think happened in 2023. I think we've kind of talked about that in the past. So I'm going to go safe. I feel like it's hard not to put him in the safe category, but down the line, Dan, you might have lost your boys and you might suck. Next up, we have Dave Canales going into year 2 with the Carolina Panthers, 5-12 record. What are you guys thinking on this one? I want to kind of say disaster season only, just looking at how they finish and what he had to deal with in that roster. Lucas is already kind of looking seats warm.
I think we might have the hottest seat so far. Like I think
really
for Callahan, I made the point if they go 6-10, I think he's safe. But I think if the Panthers go 6-10 this year, or I keep saying 6-10 like that's a possibility, 6-11. I think there's a chance that he's out of there. He's very different, but he might be in a similar spot to Bowles. But I just don't know that he's proven his worth all that much. And yeah, Bryce showed some improvement, but like they spent a lot of money this offseason too. Like if you just kind of spend all that money and don't really get better, I don't know.
I feel like first off, him leaving Tampa Bay, I was a big Canales guy. I thought that was a great hire for Carolina. I feel like him having the balls to bench Bryce Young and then bring him back and show success, like usually that's a death sentence for a young quarterback. And like a big move like that in year one, and it worked out kind of. I'm not saying it's going to work out for the future, but I think that could almost at least warrant him. If let's say even Bryce goes out there and he has a dud of a year, this is not the coach who drafted him. He came into the situation after a horrible year of Bryce Young. Bryce Young might just end up being a dud. I'm not saying like it's a guarantee that he's going to be able to draft his own quarterback, but for the time being, I feel like he's somewhat safe. Maybe disaster season only. Like if they go backwards, like 3-4 wins.
See, I was leaning safe with him, like initially, just
I
because of the
agree. Like,
progress he showed with Bryce Young at the end of last year. And I feel like you're right too with that point. Like I didn't even think of that, but yeah, if Bryce Young's not the guy, I feel like Dave Canales is the type of coach you give another quarterback to. Like you don't fire him and try to bring in another coach to save Bryce Young. Like he doesn't get three coaches. I think
yeah.
Dave Canales has proven himself. Also, he gets a lot of credit for what he did with Geno Smith, not just Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
So I feel like he's kind of a proven name to the point where if you fire a guy like Dave Canales, he's going to be probably a head coach right away.
Oh, I don't know.
That's why we have these conversations.
I don't know about to that level, coach right away, but I think immediate offensive coordinator role with the opportunity to see another one down the line. But I agree with you. Maybe I'm just a glazer because I'm a big Canales guy. So it could just be a little bit of glaze, but I'm going to lean with Ryan on this one. And I'm going to go safe for Dave Canales no matter what. I don't know about no matter what the outcome is. But, I mean, if we're talking 3 wins, it could be, I guess, disaster season only. But even then, I feel like that's a guy you're going to have to give another head coach, another quarterback to, in my opinion. Who we got next? Pete Carroll, I mean, I feel like it's got to be safe. Year one, he is who he is. I don't think, like, the whole point of him coming in here, I feel like, is to set the standard and have stability and raise the bar on the franchise. You had to fire Gruden. You had an interim head coach with Rich Bisaccia have a pretty solid year. And then you bring in McDaniel, had to fire him. Then you have, what's his name? Who filled in for Daniel? They just fired him, obviously. And what's his name?
Antonio Pierce.
Come in. They keep him. I feel like they need to have, like, I think he's safe no matter what brings this season. Like, he's getting old, but this is like a 4-year project for him to eventually hand it down to a predecessor and just build up this franchise into what it needs to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Vegas has a track record of being very quick with, like, the leashes on their coaches. But the problem is, like, financially, like you said, they're probably paying, like, 3 or 4 coaches right now. So, like, I'm not sure how much sense it would make to fire him and bring in another guy that you'd be adding onto that payroll. So, yeah, I think Pete Carroll's one of those coaches he's going to be safe.
It's another one too where he's got a little bit more control of like roster management than a typical GM or than a typical head coach does. And so I don't think it makes a ton of sense to hire a new head coach, new GM after the fact, and then immediately fire both of them if you have a bad season. So I think he's pretty safe, but I keep thinking of like a 2-15 season where I don't know, guys, he's pretty old. You might just want to cut the losses.
That just doesn't seem.
I mean, he could retire himself.
In my mind.
Yeah,
he could. I feel like if 2-15,
Tony La Russa, health scare.
Safe, more safe than Canales.
I think so.
As well.
Yeah.
All right, Liam Cohen, another year 1 head coach, Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator in 2024. Before that, Kentucky. Before that, Los Angeles. What are we thinking here, guys? In my opinion, I'm thinking safe as well. Kind of the same thing of what I just went through with Vegas, their track record of coaches and how it's kind of been just super up and down. I think Urban Meyer, an absolute disaster case going on there. And then you try and bring in this like leader vet, been there, done that with Doug Peterson, raises the bar, but then kind of plateaus and declines over the following 2 years of his tenure there. I feel like Liam Cohen is like the young last resort to turn Trevor Lawrence into the superstar that they think he can be. I don't see an out for him. I think they're going to really try and make this partnership work. I think he's safe.
This is a safe bet here.
Yeah, I would say he's safe. I do kind of question though, like who do you guys think has more value in that organization? Like Liam Cohen or Trevor Lawrence? Like from the perspective of would you give Liam Cohen another quarterback if Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy? Or do you bring in another coach if, Liam Cohen can't get Trevor Lawrence on track?
I think this is another conversation because, again, the owner handpicked Liam Cohen. The owner fired the GM for not sealing the deal with Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
Signed Liam Cohen, and then found a new general manager who I don't know that I feel has this like stronghold on the organization where they're gonna, for sure move forward with Gladstone over the next few years. He made a big trade, and so maybe you kind of see how that pans out. You don't want to get a new GM who doesn't have any of the resources because of the last one, but I think just because of the fact that Shad Khan handpicked Liam Cohen pretty much, he's probably safer than Trevor Lawrence, who, if he doesn't take that next step, I don't think anyone would think they're wrong on deciding to move on.
It's kind of like that Kyler Murray standpoint. Like, is it how much greener can the grass get? He's not bad, T-Law.
Yeah.
I don't think he's really put out like a truly bad season since his rookie year,
Mm-hmm.
but he's definitely hasn't lived up to the hype he was supposed to be. So I don't know if T-Law is deserved of a fourth head coach, but at the same time, like, that's why I'm saying, like, this could be like a locked in my eyes, a locked in, like, at least 2 to 3 year partnership where they're going to try and just give it all they can. Gladstone seems like he's got his head screwed on somewhat straight. Could be just his youthful cockiness showing a little bit, but he looks eager and determined making a big trade like that. So I think that they're going to try and make the three of them work, GM, head coach, quarterback, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. And they gave Trent Baalke like a lifetime of opportunities. Like, I think that I think there's going to be some grace given in this scenario. So I'm going to go with safe with Liam Cohen. Safer than Canales? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safer than Carroll?
And they're pretty similar.
We'll keep it there. Next up, we got Brian Daboll. I think we could all agree to just throw this bitch up to the top.
Seat's hot. Seat's burning hot.
Seat's fucking toast right now. To be honest, was kind of surprised to see him still a head coach in 2024. More surprised to see their GM still a GM in 2025. But you go from 9-7-1 to 6-11 to 3-14. What are we putting on the minimum of wins that you're going to need this year for him to survive another year?
Jackson Dart's got to show something. Maybe it's not even about wins.
Maybe he doesn't.
I don't even know. Like,
you got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston there. I think the whole point for them is to kind of have Russell Wilson tried. They've invested a lot into their defense. So maybe pray that Russell Wilson can win.
If you're Brian Daboll, you start the season 1-3. Russell Wilson's just, come on, guys, heads up, go Giant country.
In New York, he's getting killed.
You got Jackson Dart on the bench, and you're not putting him in just to try and save your job. I think 100% Jackson Dart starts games this year.
Yeah.
Plus, you had the organization, the New York Giants, tweeted and said, "We will be retaining our general manager and head coach this year." If you have to announce that, they're probably not going to last very long. So I just think this could be like a week 5 firing, I think. Like if they don't start winning games.
It's a shame too, because I really like Brian Daboll, but I just think their GM's a complete moron. Like, I literally think he's one of the worst I've ever seen, and he's tied to him. Like, there's no new GM that's going to come in and say, like, Brian Daboll's all right, we'll keep him. Like, no, he's going to bring in a new guy. So
yeah,
he's kind of screwed.
Oh, I think the offseason Hard Knocks was probably the worst thing that's ever happened.
Oh, it was so bad.
But it was amazing to watch. It was literally like watching a house on fire.
It's so funny that no other team wanted to do it after that.
They canceled that shit.
It's over.
It was perfect. Like, you picked them at like the most, I think it couldn't be topped. Like, nobody else is going to want to do it. You found them in the most perfect scenario where they're just a clusterfuck of an organization going backwards, losing out on a superstar running back. Like, it could not have worked out any better. You have dumbass
First
Danny
team all pro
Dimes.
safety too.
Yeah, losing Barkley and McKinney in the same year. You have them pointlessly, to an extent, trading for an edge rusher for some reason and paying them a shit ton of money when your team, like we're giving up on our all-pro safety, our all-pro running back. We're going to go invest those picks into We're going to invest our draft capital into a top 15 pass rusher, top 10 pass rusher. For some reason, like, I thought like it was a perfect opportunity for them to maybe invest those picks into trying to move up or something like that, or spend it. I mean, Malik Neighbors is going to work out, but you had Daniel Dimes in there. It was just perfect. It could not get any worse. Hot seat for Brian Daboll. That's an absolute gimme. Next up, we have Jonathan Gannon going into his third year as head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. This is kind of an interesting one. You don't hear a whole lot about Jonathan Gannon across football. I kind of want to say he's a disaster season only, because you go from 4-13 to 8-9. Like, I mean, a plateau. I think he even maybe stays safe in a plateau.
I feel like
What
the
do you
seat's
guys
warm
think?
on him.
You think the
Like,
seat's warm?
yeah,
You guys don't ride the bus?
it feels like a house, like a clear house situation's coming in Arizona, where it's like we're getting rid of Kyler Murray, we're getting rid of our head coach, we're getting rid of our GM. Like, they've got to go like full reset eventually. And I just feel like if a somewhat bad season happens this time, or like Kyler Murray doesn't show that he can get back to that, star form that he once had, I think that they might just completely clear house there.
I think too, like, their offense has never really been the problem, and like with Cliff, they kind of fizzled out halfway through each season, and Kyler had the big injury when he was putting up really good numbers to start a couple years ago. And so I think a lot of it depends on how the defense develops this next year. I'll call it, just because they've spent a lot in free agency on pass rush help. This should be the year where Gannon really shows the most of his impact. I think he's kind of pleasantly surprised most people too. Like, when he was initially hired, you had the with Rondale Moore and Cliff, where everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's a weirdo." But since then, I think it's been mostly positives coming from the media and from just general perspectives on him as a coach. And so I think he's probably, and having discussed these two guys already, like, I think he's probably between Bowles and Callahan for me, where it's like, if they do move on from him, I probably do expect like a full clean house. Like, even their GM, I don't know, hasn't done really anything that impressive. He drafted Marvin when Marvin was probably the obvious pick. Maybe you could have foreseen Neighbors having an amazing rookie year, but like, that's been the most splash move that they've made, and it's really not that big of a splash. So I do think there's a scenario where they clean house, but realistically, I think that they have a solid year this year and make it a tougher conversation than maybe some would expect.
I'm definitely having trouble kind of finding a spot for him, because I do like. I mean, you go from 8 wins. It's a good jump from year 2. It's not bad with the kind of roster needing a full repair after the disaster of. Holy shit, my mind is fried right now. Holy shit, who was the
Steve Kine?
Cliff Kingsbury. Hold on. There we go. After the after disaster of Cliff Kingsbury, and then now, like, you double your win totals, your defense jumps up significantly. Not a huge like impact, but they had like the worst defense in football his first year there. They jump up to 15th and 20th in terms of points allowed and yards allowed, when they were sitting at 31 in both. Their offense was the 11th best offense last year in points scored and in yards, surprisingly. I think I want to go, but at the same time, it's like I feel a certain way about these defensive-minded head coach. I'm going to go seats warm. I'm going to go after Bowles, though, because
I I think Marvin's the prized possession there, right? Like everything's got to be about getting him right. Because if we're being honest, it wasn't a great rookie year for him, especially compared to someone like Malik Neighbors. So I feel like with that high capital of investment in Marvin Harrison, like it sounds strange because mostly you talk that way about quarterbacks, but I think he's the type of player where you got to get him right. And you got to, whether it's a quarterback change, a coach change, like you got to do something to try to make sure that he's the superstar that he's supposed to be.
I mean,
A lot
he
of
was
pressure.
the highest touted wide receiver prospect that I could think of in a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
long time. Like him coming out of college compared to Jamar Chase, bigger. Like he was labeled the best next thing, like a guaranteed 100%. This kid's going to be a fucking all pro wide receiver for years to come. Could come in and immediately be a top 3 guy. And he had the rookie year that he had. So I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I think I'm so iffy on Gannon. I'm so iffy on him. That's a tough one. Tough one for me because I like the jump. I like them to have a solid year this year, but it's got to be a little warm. Aaron Glenn, year 1, defensive coordinator for the Lions, last 4 years. Probably, I was going to say, I think he's safe. 100%. I feel like okay, where are we putting him? Above Pete Carroll?
I think so. It's about a culture reset there. He's
Yeah,
gonna get a lot of years.
He's got ties to the organization.
You got a nice scapegoat in Bustin Fields too if things go south, and it's all because of the quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly. I think I'll give them this. I think they set that up nice.
Yeah, easy to get out of that 2-year, $40 million contract. Like, give it a whirl.
Oh yeah, $30 million only guaranteed. You could just be a 1-year, $30 million contract. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Like he works out. You got a quarterback. I don't think he's going to. And then you have the perfect scenario, like, oh hey, we gave it a shot. We suck. Now we can tank and reset the culture, build it up. I mean, he's going to have defensive playmakers to work with there. I'm sure they're going to have a really stout defense, which does kind of like worry me because it's like I think they're probably going to win some games. Like I'm afraid that they're going to maybe find themselves in like the constant like 6th to 7th pick over maybe the next 3 years if they have a hard time finding a veteran quarterback, kind of like a Saleh situation all over again. I mean, I know that they necessarily weren't the happiest about the hire in New York just because they've hired like 4 of their last 5 hires have been defensive coordinators. And it's kind of like, well, when like Adam Gase is the only switch up that we made. So it's kind of, and that was Adam Gase's second head coaching stint, was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
See, look, now that's just wrong. That's just wrong. So I think he's safe, though. Ties to the organization. He played there for such a long time. I think we're going to go on a little safe run here.
Yeah.
The Harbaugh boys, I mean, we don't have to get into it too much. I think Jim's safe. I think John's safe. Both agreed on that.
I think John's safer than Jim. Oh, you think Jim's safer?
Oh.
Jim's the Chargers one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's definitely safer than John. I mean, John's been there for what, 10, 15 years, haven't made a Super Bowl. Yeah, haven't made a Super Bowl since, what, 2011? It's been a lot of playoff losing for him.
I think, though, they've already shown that they're not, like, I don't know, Lamar's had an MVP season since then, but, like, they kind of seemed willing to move on from Lamar if the numbers didn't make sense and if the return maybe would have made a little bit more sense. And so, I don't know, like, what's the scenario where you see the Ravens completely tearing it down? I don't think any of us are saying that there is one, but I think Jim, it's like I think he can be seen as out of touch with like the modern day game. And so that's why I think there's like a smaller sliver where it's like if they really shit the bed and you're trying to save your elite quarterback talent that's maybe not putting up elite quarterback numbers, I think there's a little bit more of a shot that you move on from a guy like Jim Harbaugh.
And that was the last time Jim was in a Super Bowl was the last time John was in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
That's crazy.
And John won. All right, let's go. Ooh, safer than Canales. I think
safer than I think they're both safer than Cohen.
Safer than Carroll.
I think so.
They might be
think
the
they-
safest. They're probably both the safest. Ooh, him or Campbell.
I
I
think
think
how you
Jim's
have
the
that there is
safest in my
probably
opinion.
all right. So bump Jim safer than Campbell, but then compromise and keep John the safest.
All right.
There we
All
go.
right, there's the compromise. We compromise. Our one
That's
and
what we do.
only, our Lord and Savior, Ben Johnson.
This is the
He's gotta be
safest
the
I've ever
safest.
seen a head coach. This is like he's already won the Super Bowl pretty much.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind he's safe. Kind of similar to what we were talking about with Liam Cohen. I think it's going to be like kind of the same thing. Like the next 3 years are all about Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams.
We were questioning last year if they were going to actually fire Matt Eberflus. This guy's pretty safe.
Yeah, it's about the contract too. That was my thing with Jim. It's like,
Yeah.
didn't they give him like $100 million? I mean, they're not firing him with like 2 or 3 years left on that. And with Ben Johnson, we just gave him one of the biggest deals for a head coach we've probably ever given. So I don't think
I
they're firing him
legitimately
after
think,
anyone.
I honestly think he's the safest one.
Definitely.
Like I think there's
Are
no
you
way
being
in
like,
hell
whoa,
that he
whoa?
gets fired. 100%. Yeah.
The
I mean,
comments
we
are going
could-
to be nuts.
we
like
could go 0
Poles
and
gets
17,
fired.
and there's no way he's getting fired.
Poles gets fired 10 times out of 10 quicker than Ben Johnson would if the season goes south.
I would agree with you on that. Matt LaFleur, safe. I mean, is there any arguments on that? I feel like Ryan, you've got one up your sleeve. I can just see it. No.
No. I wish I did, but unfortunately, I might have him as the safest, even over Ben Johnson, to be honest.
I think he's
shocked if he got fired.
I think he's a top 5 head coach, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that is going to change. Like, I don't know. I'm a big Matt LaFleur guy, and it sucks because he's the Packers head coach. But I think he's pretty safe. I'm down to put him as the safest again. Like, Lucas, Do you have any?
I think Ben Johnson's job is safer than Matt LaFleur is just because like we've talked about the plateaus, and it's like if the Packers won one division game last year.
That is true.
If they're not the best, if they're the like, there's a realistic chance. And of course, I'm a Bear fan saying this, so like, there's a chance that they're the worst team in the division this year. There's a chance that pretty much all of us, except for Detroit, fall into that boat. But I don't know. Like, I almost don't think he's safer than Dan Quinn.
I mean, how do you replace him though? Like, where do you go to replace him? Do they go defensive?
I mean, yeah, I see that point too. It's like if you move on from Matt LaFleur, there's a 95% chance you're getting someone who's a worse head coach than him. But they've kind of hit the point where I don't know what's going to make their team significantly better. And I certainly don't think it's a new head coach, but I don't know. I just don't see them kind of taking the next step in the next year.
I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. Like, step backwards, kind of like we talked about with Dan Campbell, comparative to what they did the year before. Jordan Love took a step backwards. They did not win a playoff game this year. I mean, yes, they got matched up against the Super Bowl champions, but it's still a step backwards. Mm-hmm. You're moving backwards. You haven't won a division in a couple years. You haven't won a playoff game since 2020.
I do kind of feel like
they beat Dallas. They beat Dallas. Never mind, 2 years ago. But like, still, you haven't had significant playoff success since 2020. You haven't gone to the NFC Championship game in 5 years. I don't see them any scenario in which he does get fired, but maybe the plateau if like Love has kind of just like evened out. But I don't see a drastic decline from Jordan Love.
I was going to say, like, I do think the Packers are like a cocky enough organization where they feel like they can find the next guy. I mean, nobody really thought Mike McCarthy was like that awful, right? When they went and got Matt LaFleur.
No.
So maybe they're like one of those teams or one of those organizations.
But not great either.
Yeah, where they feel like, hey, we can turn the Titans offensive coordinator into a superstar head coach. Like, they might do that again if Matt LaFleur starts to plateau, but I don't think that's this year.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it's a while. I think that he's gonna have a long career there, some significant success there as well, no matter what. Next up, we have Mike McDonald. This one, kind of an interesting one. I want to lean, going 10-7 in your first year. You're kind of maybe still riding off the Pete Carroll roster, but with how many roster changes they made, like I feel like even then, like it would be hard to warrant a firing after, maybe a decline of a season.
I think he's very safe personally. Like you're getting a quarterback who you're probably going to do better with, but at the same time is a bit of a journeyman, and so again, kind of a scapegoat there if things go south. But it feels like they're kind of building the roster around him as a coach more than anything, and so I just think that he fits there very well in my opinion, and so I think he's one of the safer unproven coaches that we're going to talk through today.
Yeah, I think like Lucas said, it's hard to fire like a coach on that has a bridge quarterback because they're always going to go with, trying to replace him with a quarterback. But I could see a scenario in which like maybe the Seahawks are the number 1 overall pick. Maybe like Arch Manning declares and they want a coach to line up with him, maybe something like that. But
Offensive
otherwise,
guy.
otherwise I think he's pretty safe as well.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario in which they do have the number 1 overall pick. Do I think that they're going to match the 10-7 record? I don't know. I'm not sure if I can go out there and rightfully say that Sam Darnold is going to outperform Geno Smith in his first year in Seattle. And maybe, I mean, I'm not really high on Geno, but I think I would probably maybe lean Geno over Darnold. I think that they just probably wanted to stick with what they felt they were, very similar and maybe want to go with the younger option, the cheaper option. So I can understand that point of view, but yeah, I think he's safe. I don't know. I don't consider him safer than the Harbaughs.
No,
I would
I
say
think
he's least safe, probably. Maybe above Canales.
I would argue safer than Cohen, but I think he's in that group.
We'll put him there. Compromise.
I like it.
Now this one is interesting. Mike McDaniel. I feel like we've got to at least discuss disaster season seats warm. Like it is hard to put him.
I think seats warm
Really?
minimum. I think Mike McDaniel's got a year or two left in Miami.
Wow. Such a good
I like him. I like him a lot. He's such a good play caller, but you kind of I think they peaked where they had Tua healthy at the top of his game. Tyreek, 2-3 years younger than he is right now. Jalen Waddle having a phenomenal rookie and then second season. And then it's just all crashed and burned. I don't think that the kind of the sparkle that you get with like that new genius mind that he kind of fits the role of is there anymore. And like, even if you're a great play caller, the league's going to eventually catch up, and they just haven't ever taken the next step. And I don't think that that's going to happen this year. So maybe it's like a trade your head coach type situation, but I think that they're headed in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I mean, this comes down to like what I think they should do versus like what I think is actually going to happen. Like, I think he should be safe. Like, I think this is going to be one of those situations where they realize quick that the grass ain't always greener. They're going to hire a coach that ends up being way worse because he just represents Miami so well. I mean, just like that kind of lifestyle, that cool coach, high-powered offense. I mean, if they replace him with like a defensive guy or like a hard-nosed guy, that's just not the type of football that they play. I mean, we saw the disaster that happened with Vic Fangio. I mean, none of their defensive players liked him because they're a bunch of Miami guys. Like, they're not trying to play that hard-nosed, tough football. And I think Mike McDaniel's just, he's the perfect guy for them. And he's an elite play caller, genius mind. And I think he's the type of coach that like a lot of teams would love to hire if he was fired.
Yeah, I feel like I just look at that roster and that team and how it's designed, and it's like they're never going to win a Super Bowl unless they're the 1 seed. Like, that team cannot function in January in any of those premier AFC teams. Like, they cannot go to Buffalo and win a cold game. They cannot go to Cincinnati. They cannot go to Baltimore. They cannot go to Kansas City and win a playoff game. Like, Tua cannot actually function in the cold weather. He is like Jared Goff. Like that dude, I mean, that dude cannot function in the cold. Like,
I'm
and
looking
their
to
offense
upgrade
is
quarterback before head coach, though, personally.
gave him 5 years, a lot of money, but like them concussions are adding up. Like I do think that they're going to fire him. I would want to say seats warm, drastic. I mean, 9-8, and then they peak in 2023 at 11-6, still lose the division to Buffalo in the last game of the season, and then you go 8-9. Only, I mean, like Tua was hurt, but they were 6-5 when Tua was healthy. I don't think there was that much of a drastic difference. So. Yeah, I want to go seats warm on this one. I want to maybe say he's in between Bulls and do you guys think he's? What are we thinking here?
I think if
I
they
think he'd be
both
the
had the
safest.
same season, Bowles gets fired before McDaniels.
All right, we'll go right there. We'll go right there. Next up, we've got Sean McDermott going into year. I want to say this is year 8 for him, maybe year 9. Let me see. I got it on my notes here. Sean McDermott going into year 9 in Buffalo. There was a lot of rumors after last season or after 2023 that this was going to be kind of their downfall defensively. McDermott could get fired after the season, but I think he's personally safe.
I think he's pretty dang safe, yeah.
I'm going seat is burning hot on him.
No way.
I'm dead serious. You can't keep losing in the playoffs every year with that roster, especially with Joe Brady coming up as a head coaching candidate. I mean, you're going to reset that again. We saw the disaster that was it Ken Dorsey, right, beforehand?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go back to that type of offense. To me, it's an obvious promotion, Joe Brady, the head coach there.
Beta Joe Brady?
Beta boy Joe Brady.
Beta boy
with his
Joe
gold
Brady?
chain and everything.
With his gold chain? Dude, I don't know. They have not lost in the first round of the postseason since 2019. Like, they have won playoff games 5 years in a row. Like, this was a huge
It's Super
year
Bowl
for
or bust
them.
for them.
You
I
really
think
so?
if we're
you keep
saying
running
Todd
into Patrick
Bowles,
Mahomes and Andy Reid, though, like
I think if we're saying Todd Bowles is a mini Mike Tomlin and that like they've kind of hit their ceiling and not really like a serious contender, McDermott's like a Mike Tomlin on steroids, where it's like I feel like we know their floor. Like I don't know, their defense was like supposed to take a step backwards last year, and yet just the team as a whole, like the culture that they have, the floor that you get from obviously Josh Allen, but I feel like the coaching staff and just the team as a whole is a big part of that. Like I don't know. I could see a disaster season for sure, but
I'm willing to go disaster season only for the compromise, Ryan. But burning hot.
It's burning hot. I mean, when I think about the Bills, why they win games, I don't think about their defense really. I think they win games because of their offense. And you should invest in that. You should invest in Josh Allen's career. I mean, he's the guy to me that's going to be here or be in Buffalo for the next 10 years. Nobody else on that team is. You got to find someone who's going to be with him for the long run. And to me, Sean McDermott, I mean, it's a nice floor, like you guys said, but to me, you pair an elite offensive mind with Josh Allen and, good things can happen. We've seen that with Joe Brady, but like I said, Joe Brady's going to be gone next year if you keep Sean McDermott.
I get what you're saying, but it's like I don't know how much better it can get. Like they did it with, like, I mean, I still feel like his floor, no matter who like the OC is, like it was a disaster with Dorsey, and he still had a really solid overall season. And then this year, I mean, he was obviously on steroids and the best that he could possibly be. Won MVP, obviously, but I don't know. I think with how they made it work with like this kind of barrage of random defensive players who really stepped up into the role. And then you have, Khalil Shakur, like they're throwing to kind of not necessarily nobodies, but like they're making their offense run with mid-level wide receivers. Like Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer are probably both going to have like 650, 700 yards this year. And they're going to make it work there. Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to compromise here. I'm going to be the gavel banger. I'm going to just go judge, and I'm going to go disaster season only. Because, I mean, I feel like you continuously go to the playoff. Huh?
Not even seats
No
warm.
way.
I can
No
go
way.
seats warm, dude. Like,
You're not gonna do it
I
though.
think like if we were in a scenario with somebody like Bulls or somebody like Mike Tomlin, where you're going and you're getting bounced in the first round every single year, then yeah, I could understand that. But if you're what three of their last 5 playoff finale postseason losses came at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, who's the second greatest franchise of our generation, like second greatest team that we've laid eyes on in our lifetime, second to the Patriots. Like, it's hard to say that. Like, there's a lot of teams who never really got to see true long-term success because of who Tom Brady was. Like, I do think we're maybe reaching a point where you're kind of like, can he get you over that hump? But how much like when he's consistently winning postseason games and just losing at the hands of the gods, like, it's tough to move on from that. Like maybe you're not wrong in saying like they need to give it a swing some way.
Yeah.
Like eventually, but I feel like I'm gonna go gavel banging here, and I'm gonna go disaster season only. I'm gonna put him behind Callahan.
Well, let me present a scenario, and not to make everything about the Bears, but I'm going to anyway. Let's
All
say
right.
hypothetically, like the Bears make a deep run. Ben Johnson's the coach of the year. He's what everybody thought he would be. The Lions miss the playoffs. I mean, we know like the league is kind of like a copycat league. Don't you think that kind of informs their decision a bit when making the decision? Like, do we hold on to our culture builder head coach, or do we maybe promote Joe Brady and do what the Lions maybe should have done?
Here's another example of firing a culture changer and then hiring their offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. Maybe not the same offensive mind, but I don't think anyone's saying that, philosophically moving on from your head coach who's been proven to find success, even if Mike McCarthy's not Sean McDermott, hiring internally, is that like your solution? I don't know. That doesn't seem right to me.
I don't know. It's a tough one. Sean McVay, I'm just gonna safe.
Safest one we've talked about today.
Definitely, yeah.
Easily. Not even close. Kellen Moore. I want to go. I kind of want to go. I'm going back and forth between seats warm and disaster season only.
It's got to be disaster season only. Well, I don't know, because the Saints are expected to have a disaster season. So I might even go like safe on him, because why would he get the blame if they were like 2-15?
I think because he was the last head coach hired.
And
like he was
and they had more preferred candidates over him. Like Joe Brady backed out.
Aaron Glenn.
Cliff Kingsbury, Aaron Glenn backed out. Like this dude has been a offensive coordinator the last 3 seasons for 3 different teams. Like, yeah, it did. It was a great year this year. It really was. Like, they went out there and they won the Super Bowl. Like, that's really good. But there were so many more preferred candidates over him. Like, I think he has to. Like, I think we're all expecting a disaster season. So it is kind of tough, but I don't think he's that safe. Like, I could see him being a one and done guy.
I could definitely see it too,
by far the worst team in the league.
They don't have anyone where it's like, oh, you want to keep some continuity. Like last year, like, I don't know, Bryce Young with the Panthers, you want to give him some consistency because he's a talent you think can develop. Caleb Williams, like the hiring of Ben Johnson, why he's so safe is because like you want some continuity for him. You can't give him a third head coach in 3 years. But there's no one on the Saints where it's like, oh, we're really going to set ourselves back a whole new 3-year cycle if we bring in a new head coach because you got Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck, where it's just like, I don't know, you're not really expecting a head coach to make them elite. You're just like hoping that they kind of find some success.
And like in his scenario, he doesn't really have like a bar raising example at like the quarterback spot. Like Dak was already established when he was the offensive coordinator there. Justin Herbert was already established when he took over as the OC in Los Angeles, and Jalen Hurts was already who he was when he took over as the offensive coordinator there. Like, has he maybe raised the bar a little bit for them? But they were already established, proven quarterbacks. If he goes out there and Shuck is the option this year, and it's just an absolute fucking mess across the board,
Mhm.
Like, are you going to be like, we have the rights to draft Arch Manning 1.1? Is this who we want to? Is this truly who we want to do it? Like to raise him up? I think it's got it. I think it. Disaster season only. He could get fired.
I think he's the hottest of that group too.
I might be willing to go seats warm just because I feel like a disaster season's a given. So to say like
Okay.
that's the only way
Yeah.
he
So
gets
are we
fired,
saying that there's like a decent chance that he gets fired? Yeah, I kind of do think that.
I can get behind that. Okay, we'll go seats warm. I would say the least of this group,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but we'll go ahead and we'll go out there and we'll say seats warm. Raheem Morris going into year 2. I want to lean. I'm not leaning safe. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think like a disaster season, he's out of there.
I think
And
his
Yeah.
like
seat's almost damn near
maybe not
warm.
even a that. I was gonna say maybe not even a disaster season. Like this is Penix's first season starting. You do have a lot of money tied to Kirk Cousins, so maybe you give yourself benefit of the doubt. You're a little tied down in roster construction because of that. But it's a wide open division, I think. Like, yeah, Tampa's probably still the favorite, but realistically, you should be winning some games here. They invested heavily on the defensive line with what ended up being 3 first round picks spent on 2 players to finally fill a gap that you've had for so long. And so I don't know. Penix isn't one of those guys where he's coming in and expecting to develop over the course of a few years. Like he's pro ready. We saw that when he was leading a pretty pro offense in Washington. And so it does kind of feel like it's now or never. And I don't know, maybe at the end of the year he becomes the hottest seat if they don't fire him. But I kind of feel like seat's kind of warm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's another one of those situations where it's kind of all about the quarterback in a way. Like they invested too much into Michael Penix for you to not try to, fix that. They can't just move on from Michael Penix if he's not good. You got to try to bring in an offensive-minded coach to try to see if he can get things on track. Maybe even like the coach that was at Washington, wasn't it like Kalen DeBoer or something? Maybe they try to bring him in, like anything to try to fix that situation. So I don't see how like they move on from Penix before Morris.
Probably a hard sale to get him to go from Alabama to Atlanta, but maybe DeBoer. My thing is like you had 3 straight 7-10 seasons with Arthur Smith, and you only went 8-9 after a lot. I mean, they invested a lot into like go out there and win the South last year. Like division's open. We're going to go trade for Judon. We're going to invest money into Kirk Cousins. We're going to add Darnell Mooney. We're going to trade for Rondale Moore. I know he tore his ACL, but like they were making moves, heavy moves all last offseason. And you draft Michael Penix to sit and learn for a year. And they made all those moves, and you only improved their roster by 1 win. Like with that greatly improved roster, you only improved the team, by 1 win. And then Penix is going to be 26 after this season. If they don't take a real step, and he doesn't make a real step, like there's no time to waste. Like you got to get somebody in there who can do it. So I want to say his seat's warm. I want to say it's almost even maybe the warmest because I don't know. I just didn't like the move from them to begin with. Like maybe they thought like Kirk Cousins, didn't really need it. You could, run a simple basic offense. They have this defensive mind head coach who can come in here, raise the bar on their defense, and they're going to go win some games this year and let Penix develop. No, now it's his team. Now he needs to start performing quick. I want to say he's maybe here.
I think,
Foles is warmer. Yeah,
agreed. Yep.
Right there. Look at that.
that's good.
There we go. Kevin O'Connell.
He might be the safest. I'd go McVay still over him.
I'm gonna go
I think
McVay
he's probably
over
second
him.
safest.
Agreed. Yeah. Oh, swap those real quick. It's just it's hard not to. Like he does feel like one of those guys who's gonna be there for like for the foreseeable future. I'm just praying for a scenario where it's like, hasn't won a playoff game yet in his first 3 years. He's gone twice. It's done pretty good. But he has a really good defensive coordinator with him. I hope that J.J. McCarthy sucks in the next 2 seasons. And then in 2 years, they're kind of stuck with a scenario where it's like, we haven't won a playoff game, Kevin. It's been 5 years. Now we have a bust of a quarterback. Like, do we reset with Kevin O'Connell? Do we restart all over again? And I hope they fire him.
For him, it's like you get the excuse of having a developmental season with JJ if this year goes really poorly, but it's not like you'll have 2 poor seasons in a row, despite this being JJ's second year technically. And it's like you had a lot of success last year, didn't win the playoff game, and then you still kind of get like an excuse this year if things for whatever reason were to become a disaster. So I think he's he's very safe.
Yeah, I think he's a very, very, very safe head coach. Sean Payton, I would say he's safe.
Back-to-back, very safe coaches.
Yeah.
I think that the 4 that we currently have on the safe list, the top 4, I think he's safer than. I don't know if he's safer than them. What do you guys think?
He's safer than LaFleur to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I can see it. Lucas, any input?
They're all pretty close. Like the worst case scenario for Denver, Bo Nix is terrible. They win 3-4 games. Like, worst case scenario. I still don't think they fire Sean Payton. So I think, he's definitely safe. I would probably have him in the Harbaugh tier, but I think this is all pretty close. There's a 1% chance for each of these guys getting fired. So I'm not going to complain about that.
Agreed. Dan Quinn, I would say safe. I couldn't even
Very
imagine
safe.
him being fired after a disaster season with what they did in the first year. Anywhere we want to put this?
I think he's safer than the Harbaughs.
Okay.
I'd put him before Harbaugh, yeah.
There we go. Andy Reid, I think he's kind of maybe the
he's
safest.
second behind McVay or maybe the safest, yeah.
You can't fire Andy Reid. He's got to retire. Yeah.
I think it's kind of the same thing with McVay. I guess McVay's young, where it's like if he sucks for the next 5 years, then fire him, I guess. But I think both. I think we're approaching a McVay retirement in the
I was going to say
future.
It's like the same level of success, give or take. Same question too, even though they're like miles apart in age. They're going to retire before the team decides to move on from them. So they're both just as safe as can be.
I think like a. What's going on?
I was going to say, I think McVay could get traded, which is probably the difference between him and Andy Reid. Like McVay could definitely get like a first, maybe even 2 firsts. Andy Reid probably wouldn't get traded. He'd retire before that. So
I think when you're talking about Sean McVay, like I don't know, like I think it's a guaranteed 100% he's going to have like the John Gruden career path. Like he's when Matt Stafford retires, he's going to retire. He's not as Raiders, like just like we're not going to continue that. But I think he's going to be in the booth for a couple years. Like I can see McVay retiring as soon as Matt Stafford's done, taking a year or 2 off, waiting for his Rams contract to expire, and then boom. Like I'm going to come back. I'm ready. I got that itch again. I'm ready to come out and coach a new team, win some Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So, I think him and Reid, I would say McVay is even arguably safest. DeMeco Ryans, hard not to put in the safe category as well.
He's safe to me. Yeah, he's done a great job there. He's kind of similar to Dan Quinn, but not quite there just because Stroud's taken a step back. But I'd put him like towards the end of safe, in my opinion.
I think it's weird to like find like they had a really good season 2 years ago. They had a solid season last year. Where are people like attributing that credit to for Stroud's rookie year? Is it just that Stroud was like a truly elite quarterback? Like, he put that on tape. Slowick was a huge like offensive coordinator to head coach candidate the following offseason, ended up losing his job this past year, and the team definitely took a step back. So it's like, what made them so good that first year with Stroud and Anderson going early? And like, they had they're great. They're a really good team, but I think I would put him in disaster season only just because I don't know, like, I don't know how tied down they are.
Like they won more games. Like granted, their division definitely took a step back. Like they were battling with the Colts and the Jaguars in their first year. They won more regular season games, but I don't know. Like if you put them on paper, like it felt better.
They didn't. Yeah.
And they
23.
won a playoff game in both.
Yeah.
In both seasons as well. I would put him. Where were we saying?
I'd put him like towards the end of safe, but if you want to go disaster season only, I'm okay with that as
No,
well.
I don't think it is. I still think.
I think he's at least safer than Cohen, probably safer than Carroll.
All right, we'll go there.
Yeah.
We'll go there. Brian Schottenheimer. I'm gonna go out and say it. I think his seat's burning hot.
Oh yeah, agreed.
I actually agree with that. Yeah, no arguments here, which is surprising from a first-year head coach, but I mean that was a weird process that they took, and it makes
Probably
me
the
feel
lowest
like
paid.
yeah, they have an out with him for sure. Like that contract has to be like partially guaranteed, and they can easily. And it's Jerry Jones anyway; he'll pay for whoever he wants next off season. So
it's like I think it's harder to think of the scenarios where they retain him going into next year than the scenarios where they fire him. Like you have to win a playoff game, I think. For him
like I think this is immediately like raise the bar on the franchise, or we're gonna go look elsewhere because we kind of fumbled what was going on. We weren't sure if we were gonna keep McCarthy. We missed out on some of the big wigs. We're just gonna stick with what the team's familiar with and what the team knows. And if you can't do anything about it, then we're gonna fire you and then go with a clean head coaching search next season. Like I think his seat's burning hot. Like he needs to have real successes here. He's a goner. Kyle Shanahan, an interesting one. I feel like
part of me,
immediate guarantee answer wants to just say safe.
Yeah.
See, part of me thinks that like in a disaster season, they might want to look to like trade him and, move on and find someone new just for like a total reset. But like, then I think about Brock Purdy being as expensive as he is, and you're tied to that. Like there's no getting around how much you're spending on your quarterback for the next few years. And so to move on from Kyle Shanahan, who I think is a like guaranteed floor raiser for a quarterback like Brock Purdy, you're playing a real risky game if you're moving on from that, knowing what you have in house. So I think he's safe. But I don't think he's at the tier of like McVay and Andy Reid. And even a lot of these guys who are just in more fluid situations where there's a lot of possibilities of them staying. Like I would probably put him around the Harbaugh level, maybe between Glenn and Campbell is my thought, but I definitely think he's safe.
Yeah. I think like I might be reading into things a little too much too, but I think there's like something brewing between him and John Lynch too. Like maybe it goes back to that Mac Jones, Trey Lance decision that happened. Also, I think John Lynch just has like a big ego on him to the point where I feel like he's someone that would maybe think that like he deserves more credit than Shanahan for the success they've had and would be willing to kind of like part ways with Shanahan just over kind of like a beef situation. But that's just speculation in my opinion. But for now, I'm okay with safe, but I think he's a little bit less safe than some of these coaches that have really good relationships with their GMs.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that in the foreseeable future, John Lynch is fired. But I think like it's kind of that the grass. It's hard to say that the grass is greener with Kyle Shanahan, who has had a lot of offensive success with kind of some pretty mid-level quarterbacks. Like the Trey Lance thing was like bad. Like if they didn't have Brock Purdy, there's a good chance that Kyle Shanahan's on the market right now. Like if this Brock Purdy thing didn't come to light, like they traded all those picks to move up and draft him, and then Mr. Irrelevant takes his spot. Like they got kind of bailed out by that one. Who wasn't Shanahan on the Lynch or on the Lance train?
No, he wanted
Was
Mac
the
Jones.
opposite?
Yeah, it was the opposite.
See, look, I remember that interview with Chris Collinsworth and John Lynch, and was saying we just got back from Justin Fields' pro day, and it was a beautiful pro day. But Shanahan just could not stop drawing up plays for Trey Lance on the plane. They were like leaving Ohio State's pro day, and he was like, Shanahan just had the iPad out and he was going to work.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Shanahan was Mac Jones, and he really wanted him, and that was kind of the smoke before the draft. And John Lynch kind of pulled the strings and said, "No, we're going Trey Lance." Locked him out of the room, like Ryan Pace locked out John Fox and said, "No, I want my guy." And that's what happened.
Yeah, we should have taken. Oh God, no, never mind.
Deshaun Watson.
Never mind. Nick Sirianni Is
Just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, just won a Super Bowl. I'd say he's pretty
Burning
safe. Burning hot. Is he safer than Matt LaFleur, though, is what I want to know. He had Vic Fangio, guys.
Yeah, I think he's safer than Matt LaFleur.
Vic's not going anywhere. Like, he's going to retire an Eagle, in my opinion. And as long as Vic's there, Sirianni's going to look good. He's pretty.
Got a lot of safe. We got a lot of safe. Stefanski, I mean, let's just go ahead and put it up there.
Burning hot. Yeah.
Glad
we're on the same page there, because I think
it's crazy to think about two-time coach of the year with a burning hot seat, but there's kind of no other place to put it. Ryan's maybe doing a little head tilt there, maybe trying to come up with a.
I was thinking, like, he's a really good coach, and it's Cleveland. So, I mean, what are the odds that they get a better coach than him? So, I mean, what they should do is probably keep him, but I can also see just like a parting of ways just to reset things there, because they are in a pretty big rebuild now.
I think he got like one of the lower head coach rankings on the player surveys at the end of the year. Like, I think he was like a C or a C minus, which completely shocked me. But like the optics of that, it's like, all right, if your team, the players who are evaluating you don't think you're a very good coach and your team sucks dick, like, it's pretty bad.
They've turned on him.
It's been pretty rough for them. I mean, just everything with Deshaun Watson, and then the optics of Baker Mayfield going out and having back-to-back years of success. Like, maybe that was an ownership decision. Like, we're going to go trade for Deshaun Watson and we're going to get rid of Baker Mayfield. But that doesn't look good, and he's doing it with offensive coordinators. So, I don't know. I think his seat's burning hot. And I'm going to go the same exact way here with Shane Steichen.
I think Steichen's the second hottest. Yeah.
I would agree with you. Ryan, I any thoughts to this?
I mean, their organization in general is kind of like in disarray. Obviously, I feel like that could be like a clean house situation too. Like, I doubt Ballard sticks around very long. Jim Irsay obviously passed away, so we'll see what his daughters do. I mean, who knows, right? They might fire him because he's not cute enough. So, I mean, I think personally he's a good coach, but I do think I still believe in Anthony Richardson. But I don't know. I feel like things are just going to part ways. Steichen will be an OC somewhere. Richardson will be a starting quarterback somewhere else as well.
I was high on Steichen coming out of Philadelphia. I really was. But yeah, I think it's just the first 2 years just haven't worked out. Anthony Richardson hasn't worked out. I think his seat's burning hot. I think if Richardson isn't the guy this year that they expect him to be, then he's going to, he's fired.
It's only thing that I think keeps him around, I think it's silly to say longer than Dable, is that they do have Daniel Jones. And I think, like, you have a quick little change of pace. Like, if, I don't know, first of all, Richardson might not even be healthy to start the year, but like, if he puts out two stinkers, I think Danny Dimes, who I've never really been high on, but I think he's a much safer bet to win you some football games than Anthony Richardson is. And so might keep him around a week or two longer than Dable.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to go ahead. I think we're going on a little run here. Yeah. We're going on a little run here. Zach Taylor. I want to go seats burning hot.
I think he's definitely hotter than Todd Bowles and probably safer than Stefanski.
He would be at the bottom of the burning hot for sure.
I was going to say, like, the reason why I think the Bengals lose is because of their defense. So it's hard to blame him. But at the same time, like, I just don't think Zach Taylor makes enough of an impact to keep him around. Like, they could easily replace him with a defensive head coach that could elevate that side of the ball. And then Joe Burrow's going to, carry the offense on his own. So I could definitely see them just firing him and trying to get a defensive guy in there.
I mean, back-to-back years, no postseason. Granted, Burrow did get hurt in 2023, but I mean, it just hasn't been working. Like, their offense is running. I get that, yeah, but it comes down to the head coach at the end of the day. Wins or losses falls on him, and they have not been winning like they should. And I would say a lot of it, I think, has to do with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and being like who they are. Like, I think there's a lot of offensive play callers who could go in there and have success with those two. So I want to say his seat's burning hot. I would say it's the least of the burning hot. I think if they don't make the postseason this year, he's gone. And I remember, like, vividly after they lost the Super Bowl, like Cincinnati fans being like, fuck, we're stuck with this guy for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
They don't
I feel
believe
like
in
he's always been like he makes them worse. Like I kind of do feel that way.
They don't believe in him like other teams believe in their head coaches, like the Packers believe in Matt LaFleur or anything like that. They just got hot and they went to the postseason and then they were like, oh shit, like
Well, he
this
doesn't
guy's
call plays, does he?
I don't believe he does. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Like he definitely didn't call plays in Los Angeles, which is where I believe he came from. And then I'm pretty sure when he got to Cincinnati, like he was never that kind of coach. He's kind of like a culture guy too, I believe, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
All right. Mike Tomlin. Hard to sit here and confidently say that we're going to put him in the seats burning hot, considering the guy who hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years has retained his job. But this has got to be the year, right? This has got to be the year where his seat's burning hot, no? Or do you guys think it's still just warm? Or do you guys think he's safe? You guys?
No, I don't think he's safe. Like I think the seat's warm, and I think a lot of that though is because their team. I'm not a big fan of this year. Like I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be 500. I think they're going to take a big step back for the first time in a long time. They just extended their GM, so maybe that is a sign of one direction rather than the other. And I think last year, like there were so many conversations around, is this the year or was that the year? And so I definitely think he's the warmest of the warms here.
Warmest of the warms.
I almost weirdly think like if they go 9-8 again and lose in the first round, he might be out. But if they go if they have like a disastrous season and they're in line to pick a quarterback pretty high, maybe they run it back with them just because, hey, like Mike Tomlin really hasn't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. Maybe they give him like a young, exciting prospect and they see how that goes. But I think if it's another year of like mediocrity and no playoff wins, it might just be time to tear it down for them.
Yeah.
We'll go seats warm. We'll put him at the warmest of the warm. And then last but not least, holy shit, let me put him in front of Todd Bowles, please. Thank you. Last but not least, Mike Vrabel. I would say very similar to Aaron Glenn, ties to the organization, won a Super Bowl there. I would say he's safe.
I'd say he's probably a bit safer than Glenn. Although there's a lot more money spent in New England, so it kind of puts me on the Canales mindset here where it's like if this turns into a disaster, you spent all that money, your quarterback showed a lot of flashes last year, he needs to take that next step. And if he doesn't, maybe there's a chance out there, but I think he's very safe, to be honest.
I think he could be less safe than Glenn. I don't know, because it's once again, it's a young quarterback and everything in that organization is going to be about getting Drake May right. So if it's like a complete disaster season, I could see them going for an offensive coach. I'm not saying to put him in disaster season only, but I'm saying like low end safe.
Where are we going here? It's hard.
I like that there.
Right there?
I like it.
All right. We'll go right there. And that's all 32 NFL head coaches. So technically in order, we think Brian Daboll is the least safe. And we think that Sean McVay is the safest.
Yeah.
All right. I think we killed it.
Interesting. I think looking back, I think realistically there's more coaches that would be fired if they have a disaster season. It's just we think it's a very low chance that they're going to have a disaster season. But other than that, I think we did a pretty dang good job here.
I think disaster season only should be like relative to that team's expectations. Because I mean, in theory, like if every team went 0-17, like how many coaches would really survive? Like maybe a couple.
I agree with you. And that's why I feel like it is fair to put Brian Callahan in disaster season only because he already had the disaster season. Like back-to-back disaster seasons. You only win 7 games over 2 years. Unless your name's like Matt Eberflus. You're fucked. At least within most organizations, and you add the GM thing into it as well. I think that's fair. It was hard not to put that. I just wanted to throw that category in there. Maybe we should have just did seats warm, safe, and burning hot. But where's the fun in that?
I liked it.
All right, Cash Sharma debut guarantee. Lucas with me as always. When's the All-Star break for baseball? Because that's when I'm dropping my Dog Days of Summer video.
It's next week, I believe.
Yeah,
Next week.
Sunday.
Next week. It is coming up, and you're going to be seeing the three of us a lot more often doing Dynasty Football Talk. So we've got a lot of fun content. We are only 12 days away from the start of Chicago Bears training camp. We are only 24 days away from the first official NFL preseason football game. That's this month. It is ramping up. It's getting close. Thanks so much for Cash Sharma making his debut. Lucas, thanks for joining me as always. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.